Good morning to everybody. Thanks for attending this year's information session for the Lafayette Consolidated Government External Agencies Funding Program for Arts and Culture. We are going to go through a slide. It should take about 25 to 30 minutes to go through that, and then there'll be some time for question and answer at the end. If you do have any questions throughout, please just put them into the chat, and I'll try to get to them when I can. And then at the end, we'll also be able to do Q&A. I'm going to share my screen, which has a presentation for everybody to follow along with. Everyone can see that? Great. Okay. So as I said, this is the Lafayette Consolidated Government External Agencies Funding Program for Arts and Culture. It is funded by LCG and administered by us here at ACA. This specific grant is for operations only. So the purpose of this grant is to fund operational expenses to support arts and cultural organizations who have a 501c3 status in Lafayette Parish. So number one, it has to be based in Lafayette Parish. Number two, has to be a 501c3. And number three, has to be an arts and cultural organization which is determined by the mission statement of your organization. So the program overview for this grant is to foster a vital and resourceful arts community. We're helping to contribute to the sustainability of arts and cultural organizations in Lafayette Parish. We hope that funding operations will also support and increase opportunities for local artists. We are looking to expand access to arts experiences in the community, especially to people with otherwise limited opportunities. We are increasing efforts for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility to the arts. And we are encouraging new initiatives to expand existing programming and build audiences for arts experiences. As per usual, I have forgotten to introduce myself and Gwen and Mary. So I'm just going to take a step back. I do this all the time. So just give me a moment. I'm going to unshare the screen. Okay. So this is a very common thing for me to do, is forget to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know, my name is Anna Kuchevnikov. I'm the Community Development Manager here at ACA, which in my role, I assist with grants administration for our 6 different grant programs, plus a lot of outreach for artists and arts and cultural organizations. I will pass it to Gwen to introduce herself, and then also our LCG counterpart, Mary, after Gwen. Gwen, you're muted.
Thank you. Gwen Richard, Community Development Director, Acadiana Center for the Arts. Mary, I'll pass it on to you.
Good morning, everyone. Mary Elaire. I'm a grants coordinator at Lafayette Consolidated Government. Welcome.
Okay. I'm going to get back to it. You all can see that?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, so we already went through the program overview. And next, we just want to remind you that this is a competitive program. Just because you have submitted an application, it does not mean that it'll automatically be funded. There will be a process of assessment with a panel, which we will talk about in a bit as well. So it really depends on the number of applicants and the amount of funding that we are granted from LCG, which we will know after the legislative sessions. So as I said at the very beginning, the eligibility for this program is threefold. You must be based in Lafayette Parish. Your mission must be to develop, promote, encourage, and present arts and culture to the public. So it really needs to be explicit within your mission statement. And you must be a 501c3 organization. In terms of the amount of funding that you can request this year, we have a minimum request of $2,500 and a maximum request of $7,500 per applicant. We don't require a cash match, and you can only apply for one grant per cycle. So some important dates to remember for this year. The cycle dates are November 1st through October 5th. So November 1st, 2024 of this year to October 5th, 2025. The applications have already opened, as you all know. And if you would like us to review a draft of your application, we do need to see that by July 24th. And you can email that to either myself or to Gwen by 5 p.m. on the 24th. And then the application deadline is Monday, August 5th, via our online form by 4 p.m. And then you will know about whether you have been successful in this competitive grant by mid to late October. So let's talk about the eligible expenses. This is, as I said, this is a operational grant. So what does that mean in terms of the types of expenses you can apply for? Unlike projects, you can actually apply for your day-to-day expenses. And what that looks like is salaries, any health benefits, retirement benefits, supplies and materials, rent for the space that you're in, utilities, really just like when we're thinking about day-to-day expenses. And also importantly, what we won't fund through this program is the following. So capital expenditures, unless the request will completely fund or fund last dollars required for the capital expenditure. And what we mean by capital expenditure is really anything that will improve your building or any big ticket items. So anything that is using to improve your organization. This won't fund any scholarships, fellowships, or tuition assistance. No deficit reduction, no costs incurred before the effective date of the contract or after the project is completed. So that means any receipts that are dated after before November 1st, 2024 or after October 5th, 2025, they are not eligible expenses. The funds cannot be used towards any competitions, pageants, fundraising events, or hospitality costs. This is not for any individual funding. This will not fund. Just gonna let somebody in. Any administrative costs that are not associated with the organization. Any events that are not open to the public that are run as part of the organization's day-to-day programming, and any organizations who are currently receiving direct support from Lafayette Consolidated Government through other means. Julie asks, what does individuals mean? To be honest, I think that that's actually a carryover from the project support. So really what it means is we're not going to be funding, so with, let me just get this straight. So what it means by individuals is that this is not like an individual artist program. This is an organizational program. So we're not really funding artists for their day-to-day events.
Right, and if you realize that our Louisiana project grants will fund individuals if they use a fiscal agent, this program doesn't do that. That's why that's on there. It's not, an individual can't say, oh, I'll just partner with a 501c3 and get this grant. No, this grant is only for 501c3s, not individuals.
Okay, and so the next part of this. So yes, Stephanie, the applicants do need to be a 501c3 nonprofit arts and cultural organization. So how to apply? We have an online form on our website. So if you follow the website acadianacenterforthearts.org and click on the opportunities tab, head to organizations, and then to the LCG Arts and Cultural Operations Grant, you will find the download guidelines button, which will bring you to this document, which is really important to read before you submit anything. And then you will hit this bar and it'll open up an application form for you. But before you begin, as I just mentioned, we really encourage you to look through, thoroughly look through the guidelines that that button will take you to. Really, this will give you all the answers to whether or not you are eligible for this program and whether the expenses that you're planning on using the funds for are eligible expenses. It gives you all the dates. It gives you just all the information you might need, including when and my contact details. Really, what we recommend when you are writing your application is that you use clear language, make it very simple to the point, really get your point across. You know, we don't want you to go to too many lengths to make things too flowery. It makes it easier for the panelists to really understand what you're applying for if you just use clear, simple language and very specific language. Use facts, concrete plans, specific goals, which means don't use your opinions. If you're going to put something in there, make sure that you can back it up with a fact. Ensure that the budget and the narrative questions and all correspond with each other. So when you're filling out your narrative section and then you go to fill out your budget, just be referring to each of them as you're doing it to make sure that they're corresponding and that everything matches up. It really feeds into that consistency. So make sure everything's consistent. Make sure that you proofread. As I said, we do review drafts. So if you do need us to look over the draft, that is something that we'll also be looking out for you. But please also have somebody else proofread it for you. Make sure that they understand what you're trying to get across. And just remember that this is a competitive program, as we mentioned before. So some information that you should have ready before you submit the form or start filling out the form. And one thing that I do recommend that you do before you start filling out the form is to use a doc that is not the form to hold all of your information, just in case there are some tech issues that take away from the actual form itself. we did have some bugs last year. I think that they're fixed now, but please just make sure that you have a copy of your application somewhere other than the online form. So some information that you will need to know when you're filling out the form is the name, phone, and email address of not only the person who's submitting, but also the authorizing official and the chief fiscal officer. Sometimes these can all be the same people. Oftentimes they're not. They are generally people on your board. It could be, your CFO, what might be you might have a specific person who's doing the role of financial stuff for your organization. Make sure that you have a copy of your IRS determining letter. And you need to make sure that it is a 501c3. Your articles of incorporation, you should have got them when you first applied for your 501c3 status. Ensure that you have a certificate of good standing from the Secretary of State. What that means is just to make sure that all of your IRS dealings are in order. We don't need the actual, it could just be a printout of the website that does actually show us that you are in good standing. We do need the bylaws of the organization and a list of the board of directors, including the board of directors resolution that authorizes the person who's submitting the application. Yes, Holly, the authorizing official can be the board president. Please make sure that you have an annual budget that is adopted by the board of directors. A financial statement, usually it's the form 990 because most organizations are small enough to fit into that 990 category. Please have one of those ready. Anybody who is receiving salaries, we do require a provider of services form, which just tells us a little bit about what that person is getting paid for and a bit of their background. And then also it's optional, but recommended to submit supplemental materials, which include things like letters of support, samples of work, brochures, that type of thing. And pay close attention to the following when completing your application. So when you've completed your application, what happens is we do submit the applications to a panel for review. And these are the things that they're looking out for when they're reviewing your applications. So 50% of the weight will be towards the history and programming of your organization. So just give us a really good overview of the type of programming that you have been doing over the course of the history of the organization. Give us a little bit about the need and impact of your organization. I'm just gonna let one more person in, excuse me. So the need and impact is, why is your organization needed for the community? Who are you, who are you servicing? Why do they need this organization? And then the final is administration and budget. Just make sure all of your numbers are in order in terms of your budget. And, really let us know who is doing the bulk of this work to ensure that the organization is sustainably running. So these are the narrative questions that will come up in that form. We're looking for a bit of your organizational history, your value, purpose, goals, and programming activities. So just give us, like, obviously there are some organizations who have been around for a very long time, but just give us an overview of your programming activities. Who is the community you serve, the audience that you serve? What are your goals for accessibility? How do you manage that for your organization? A little bit about the administrators, who's running the show. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. Any internal evaluations you use to assess the effectiveness of your organization and any impact that you're making in the community. And then also a little bit about where these funds are going to go towards. So these are the things that you will see on the budget, which I will give you an example of that on the next slide. But when you're considering what to put in your budget, these are the items that, will make up your revenue and expenses, your income and your expenses. So, if you're a presenting organization, you'll have admissions and memberships and subscriptions. Any contracted services that you provide might bring in an income. List any other applicant cash that might be donations or things like that. And then any private, corporate, or foundational support, any other grants that you're receiving, and then also your community arts fund expense. And then obviously about things like personnel, professional services, utilities, marketing, insurance, that type of thing. So this is what the budget sheet will look like. It's a downloadable sheet within the form. So you can see here that we're asking for 3 years of your revenue and your expenses. So what that is we're looking for last year's revenue. We're looking for this year's revenue and then a projection of next year's revenue. So you might be halfway through your fiscal year. Everybody has different fiscal years, and you'll be able to tell us within the form what that looks like for you. But you should have very precise numbers for 2023. If you've just finalized your 2024 fiscal year, you will have precise numbers, but 2025 is always going to be a projection. And same with the expenses. You'll be able to tell us exactly what 2023 and 2024 look like. And then, maybe you're thinking about expanding. And so 2025 might look different. So in supplementals, these are the types of things that we're looking for. Letters of support from other organizations or communities who use your services, resumes of artists or the administrators of the organization, any additional budget details that you couldn't find a place to put and you want to, give us a little bit of a narrative on what that budget line item looks like. Please feel free to pop in a paragraph there, any samples of work, brochures, possibly, newspaper clippings or any kind of press releases that have been out there online as well. So as I said, we do offer draft reviews, and we will only accept them until July 24 of this year by 4 p.m. To do that, I recommend when you're looking at the form to immediately do a save and continue. So put your contact details at the very start, head down to the save and continue button at the bottom of the form, right next to the submit button. And when that comes up, you will find a field to input your email address. And so what will happen is once you put your email address in, it will send you a link that you can keep revisiting to update the form. Please only submit it once it's your final copy. To share your draft with myself or with Gwen, just send us a link. The link that was emailed to you through the save and continue button, we'll be able to access it through that. Please also note that any uploads won't be saved if you do a save and continue. Uploads should only be uploaded once you're ready to submit. So what happens after the application deadline? So we do have a panel review, as I said. This one is a grant that we use a panel to review. The panel consists of people from Lafayette Parish who have arts background, as well as community members who this could affect, some educators. We have a submission process that we use to select people from. Once we've gone through the panel review process, that will need to be, the recommendations that they come up with will need to be approved by the ACA board, as well as LCG at their next council meeting. After that whole process, we will be sending notifications. As I said at the very start, that will probably be mid to late October that you will find out whether you've been funded or not. Those letters will come from LCG. So if you are awarded, there are some things that you need to know. We do host compliance meetings every year for every organization or project that is ever funded. These are mandatory. You will not receive your funding unless you attend the compliance meeting. We will discuss exactly what your responsibilities are with the grant, should you receive it, and talk to you about what we expect from you. And it's a good opportunity for you to ask questions about how we can support you throughout the process. Again, if you are receiving funding, please note that it is split into 2 payments. The organization will receive a first payment of 75% of the grant. Once we receive the grant agreement, which we call a statement of assurances, and the remaining 25% is reimbursable. So at the end of the cycle, once you've submitted your final report, we will reimburse the final 25%. So you will need to have that final 25% on hand to spend before being reimbursed. Does that make sense to everybody? Great. Okay. As I said, throughout the grant cycle, we do support you. We are your contacts at ACA. Even though the letters will come from LCG, ACA is your point of contact. Gwen and I are the people who will answer any questions you have about this program. We love to support our organizations, and through different means, we do site visits, we stay in touch via meetings, emails, and other correspondences. And we also love to share more information with you about other grant opportunities or just other general opportunities that are available. So we'll be in touch throughout that process. And we always encourage everybody to please contact us if they have any questions that we can help them sort out throughout the process. The last thing we want is for anybody to be scared to, talk to us if part of their program is changing, or their organizational structure is changing or something. Please let us know so that we can help you through that process. The next slide has our contact details. You can call us, you can email us with any questions about the submission, about other programs. Gwen and I are very available to talk to you about next steps. So please contact us if you have any questions. This is also available on our website and in the guidelines. So if you haven't quite jotted it down, there are other ways to find that information. So again, thank you for your interest in this program. Good luck. I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to open it up to some questions. Does anybody have any questions that weren't answered throughout that process, or anything that Gwen or Mary would like to add?
I'm just happy to see some shiny new faces and some returning. And we also highly recommend you having a conversation with us before, if you're not sure whether or not you're eligible, whether or not your organization is eligible, whether or not you are looking at eligible expenses. That's really important because we want to make sure that it's all covered and everything has to go according to what's in the guidelines.
So, okay.
Any questions, anybody?
Does anyone?
I do have one more thing. Under provider of services, when we were talking about that, this is an organizational grant, right? Operations grant. So we really only need the providers of services of the people who are going to be administering the grant, and also of the people, if you're, let's say, paying a salary for a worker or a contract person. We don't need a provider of services for everybody in your organization, just anyone that's being paid through the grant or anyone that's involved in the grant, because it gives credibility to what the process is with the program, your program, and it helps us to be able to identify and contact people if needed.
So I also just want to reiterate that, as I said, this is a grant for arts and cultural organizations that are 501c3 with a 501c3 status. There is another grant that LCG administers that is for social services with a 501c3 status. So if you don't quite fit into, if your mission statement for your organization doesn't quite fit into the ACA's external agencies arts and culture grant, then Mary, who is on this call, will be able to give you more information about the other grant that they run. Mary, do you have an information session coming up for that one?
I do. It's actually this afternoon at 2 p.m. and the link is on the LCG's website. So if you guys believe that you fit into that category, please join us this afternoon.
Do you have the link that you can put into the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. Okay. Well, once Mary's dropped that link into the chat, if nobody else has any questions, I'm just going to let you know that this video, this call, as you all know, has been recorded. If you do want to revisit any of this, it will be posted on our website on the LCG webpage, the LCG grant webpage. So you can watch it again there. It will also, I mean, most of this stuff is in the guidelines. I really recommend you thoroughly read those guidelines. And the slides will also be posted on the page. So please revisit them. But as I said, Gwen and I can take your calls, emails, any questions that you have. There you go. Mary's just posted that link to the call at 2 p.m. today. Gwen, any final words?
No, I'm just excited to see this program grow. I think it's important because the $7,500 is way bigger than we had before, which was like $5,000 to give out. So we're just constantly trying to provide more services, more money, more support to our local arts and culture organizations. And like Anna said, feel free to contact us. We want to talk you through it. We want you to be successful. Thank you.
Okay, and then.
So you're saying that that's going to be on the LCG website, this program that was had?
No, so sorry, Edward, I know that you came in a little bit late. This
Yeah,
program.
I never got a link.
This program is the ACA administers the LCG External Agencies Art and Culture Program. So this
Okay.
one is on our website. If you just head to our website and go to opportunities and for organizations, you'll find it there. And there'll be a link to the video that we're just recording right now, plus all of the other information.
All right,
Okay,
I'll look that over.
great. Well, thank you, everybody. We will, please contact us, and we look forward to seeing your applications.